Hello and welcome back to coverage for Grand Prix Xi'an. This is Caillou, and today we're going to be watching the round 1 match between Cajun on red-white Cactax and that damn Pipsqueak on green-black Villainy. Unfortunately, we've missed game 1, which Cajun took convincingly over Pipsqueak. Right now they're sideboarding and starting game 2 with Pip on the play. So if we're going to look at the deck lists here, just for sideboarding purposes. So Cajun is already fairly favored in the matchup as long as Pip doesn't resolve a Villainy. So Shaldron probably is going to be coming in. Sigil could come in, given how graveyard-focused Pip's deck is, and given that they have Wealth of the Underbrush as their main digging tool. Farmer's Repos for sure, and maybe a few copies of Guiding Light to stop Villainy triggers to the face. I don't think Pip is wearing enough non-basics for Priestess to come in, so it's probably going to be maybe like a 1-of of Sigil of Radiance, a few Farmers, maybe the whole playset of Farmers Reposes, and then a Guiding Light. Meanwhile for Pip, so she's got Sealed Tomb, which I don't know that she wants in this matchup. Chile, which she's not the aggressor in this matchup, so no. Legacy Sand, likely not. Probably all of the Flesh to Rot and Deathless Siege just to get some more life. So that's probably what the sideboard is going to be looking like here. So while we're looking at sideboards, what we've missed is Pip going turn 1, playing a Dark Bargain to draw 1 card. And then Cajun went and then scorched Pip in the face. So Pip is so far taking 2 damage from themselves, 3 damage from the shock, and it looks like some further damage from their mana base, so they must have done a fetch with the Wayfarers. Anyway, so now they're casting Hand Attack. What did they grab? Okay, they played Stolen Secrets, naming Planeswalker, and grabbed Seto-san, as it was the only Planeswalker in their hand. This is actually an interesting hand for Cajun to have kept. It has more lands than you usually want to have in an aggressive deck, but I guess it is slightly mid-rangey, but it doesn't have any of like the lower drops that you'd want here, like Headwind Collider or something to just like get in damage quickly. So now he's just left with the 2 Taichams, which, given their 2 toughness, could probably be taken care of by some Villainy triggers if Pip has them right here. The issue being that Pip is already severely on the back foot in terms of, they're going to play Grim Bastion tapped, and they're passing. So, most of their deck is at, or not most, actually the only things that they have at instant speed are Exit and Memento Mori. So they're scared. Okay, so what this tells me is they're scared of Taicham because they're already at 14 life, and they want to either threaten to have an Edict, or they really do have an Edict. And we're going to see right here. Okay, tapping 1 for, Exit. Okay, but they only have 8 edicts total. So if Cajun is able to consistently keep putting on that pressure, it may not be like feasible for Pip to continue drawing into those kind of answers. However, how many cards is Pip? Pip only has 5 cards in Grave, so they won't be able to turn on Hunter's Hideout right now. And they don't have the mana for Hunter's Hideout as well. Oh wait, okay, now they do. They're tapping out for, there it is, Hunter's Hideout. Yeah, which is an interesting call, which means they definitely don't have Villainy, because Villainy would have been the better enchantment here to drop by far. And this means that they definitely don't have Memento Mori, or they have both Memento Mori and Exit, which would be really something. So now, the only thing that we know Cajun has for sure in his hand is Taicham, but it looks like he's in main. Okay, he's dropping Ozin, and he's going to Oh, he's not O-ringing the Hunter's Hideout. I think that might be a mistake given the amount of self-mill that Pip has. They could easily turn on Hunter's Hideout, get 2 beasts, and then Ozin is really put on the back foot. So that was a interesting. I wonder. After the set, I should ask Cajun what that was about because it definitely feels like a misplay when like Pip playing Hunter's Hideout feels like a sign that they have the hit, or like have the hit meaning like they have like Wealthy Underbrush and other cards to trigger it. Tapping for another Hunter's Hideout. Okay. But going to end again. This is really worrisome for Pip because like Hunter's Hideout is pretty, but like if you don't have it online, it doesn't do anything. Sure, it'll take care of like Sigil of Radiance if like or Guiding Light if he ends up drawing those, but like I don't think Cajun even cares about that right now. Does he even have any other does he have any like enchantments? Oops. Does he have any enchantments main board that are relevant in any way? No, he doesn't. So it feels like Pip would much prefer both of these be Villainies. Because it looks like Cajun sacked one of his utility lands to draw a card. Or no, sorry. He actually was just using his fetch land. But he did use it to search for his investigate land. So now Cajun is -1ing, and he's going to grab one of the Hunter's Hideouts. Tapping out for Seto-san, probably. That's only 4-drop. Yep. And this is a really strong position because Pip does not have any or many answers for Planeswalkers. I think literally the only thing she has is Villainy itself. Yeah, she really only has Villainy itself as her answer. And even the side she didn't put in Reconstruct or anything. So this is looking really bad for Pip. Okay, what is she doing? She's casting Memento Mori. And she's making him sacrifice the warrior? That feels like I don't know why you would waste it on that. Is she just trying to fill up her... Okay, she's casting it to try and fill up her graveyard. Another Hunter's Hideout? Yeah, it's all 3 copies in her deck. But again, it doesn't matter if she doesn't have a way to turn it on. She's losing her... Yeah, 0 of her graveyard fillers. Yeah, this game has been... Yeah, this is good. Not going out with a bang, but going out with a whimper, unfortunately. And yeah, I don't see many ways that Pip can, because now, just to be safe, Cajun is probably going to grab another Hunter's Hideout with the minus. Actually, it looks like he's thinking about it. Whether at this point he just wants to try and quote unquote burn out Pip, but that'll take 12 turns. It's not a feasible thing. That gives him way too much time to draw into it, even if you have additional pressure from these tokens. Yeah. So he's grabbing the second Hunter's Hideout. Because, yeah, if Pip just somehow manages to turn on Hunter's Hideout next turn, it just all goes out. Okay, Headwind Glider. Way too late for it to be really effective, but it's there nonetheless. Another sweet Siguratam? Oh no, Taicham. Okay. The 3 walkers would have been unbeatable. I mean, this board is already looking pretty unbeatable right now, because even with the Flesh to Rot, he still has Seto-san and Ozin. but yeah. And Headwind Glider is flying, so it provides like a guaranteed block along with Azun through like a board of board of creatures. And Setosan can buff up Headwind Glider if that ends up getting lethal, or it could just keep plussing and then -7 to just wipe Pip's board. So yeah, they're not, and Pip's at 8, Cajun's at 22. This is looking like a done deal. Yeah. Dead on board, how? One, two, three. And then, yeah, okay. -2. -2 Setosan. And then Tai Champ goes in for lethal. Yeah, this is kind of, I wonder what Pip had in her hand. Okay, Exit, which once he starts token spamming, aren't really good in this matchup. See, Exit would probably... Oh, Exit in a fetch land. Okay. Okay. Whew. Yeah, so Pip really got screwed there. They got some of their good removal, but they just... It was like the wrong half of the deck. Drew way too many lands, and then got none of their enablers, which is kind of insane. Because if you look at it, they have 4 Wealth of the Underbush, 3 Pass Unresolved, 4 Oracle's Visions. That's like 11 enablers, only one of which they needed. And like I guess Dark Bargain kind of counts, but they had they cracked a Dark Bargain, so they were going up on card advantage. So that was just a real streak of bad luck for Pip, unfortunately, that game. But that's not to discredit good play from Cajun. Especially game 1, where it was like calling Pip's, or was it this game, where it was calling Pip's bluff on the Performer of Ambition flip. And that basically, that was the previous game, yeah, because that basically won him the game right on the spot. Well, good games to both players. Let's see if we can get any of them into voice chat for like a post-mortem. Yeah, Cajun himself admitting that like his initial hand was like a sketchy keep, and the hand attack made it even more worrisome. But fortunately for him, Pip kept an even sketchier hand. Because like Hunter's Hideout is a good card in general, but Cajun's deck has like so many like different angles of attack which just outright beat Hunter's Hideout. Though I guess the logic is that Hunter's Hideout does the beats on walkers more effectively than Villainy, because first of all, Hunters gives you free board presence, while Villainy you have to like manually shock each and every one of their walkers and how many ever times you need to. So if they start walker spamming like he did here, it wouldn't have made much of a difference, but it's just, yeah. Hello, Pip.
Hello.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that game? Or that set, really.
Yeah, so game 1, I kept a slightly slow hand, which then got slower because of Azun requiring me to not just tap out for Villainy, I had to play Villainy and have a thing to cast in that same turn. And the board state just kind of got out of control. If I had been on the play, I think I would have been okay that game, but since I wasn't, I died exactly to burn.
And
Yeah.
so I'm assuming that you drew Exint like the turn right after they flipped Performer of Ambition or Desire.
Yeah.
Okay, unfortunate.
I mean, yes, I drew it the turn after because I was looking to cast both Villainy and that in the single turn.
Okay. And game
Um,
2, it just feels like you had
yeah,
like a run of bad luck.
yeah. I don't know how bad that matchup is. I know a lot of people feel that um, traditionally Sigura Tom decks are bad versus Villainy decks, which is definitely the case from a lot of those matchups that I've played. But Prowess Walkers as a deck is usually just faster than the decks that are futzing about with Grove Champions and a bunch of counter magic or interaction, since it just kills people.
And it also like
Um,
the Walker spam is like relatively difficult for Villainy to deal with, which is why.
so
Oh, sorry, yeah.
that's what I thought, but having playtested versus a bunch of other Azun decks, usually it isn't because Villainy can burn walkers. So one of the really common lines you'll take is you'll put out a Villainy, you'll hold up an Exune, they play an Azun, they minus Azun, and you kill him in response because you just cast the Exune on an empty board and Villainy ping him.
Okay.
Traditionally, I usually just respect those decks enough to like throw in a bunch of just business in the sideboard. But in this particular tournament, I really did not put a bunch of time and thought into my sideboard, and I just kind of left them threw in a bunch of generic
Okay.
pieces.
I was
And
surprised
then
by
I
the lack of reconstruct in your sideboard because I felt like that would have been just good for the meta in general, but specifically good in this matchup.
yeah, when it comes to like when we're starting to look at like 3 mana answers to Planeswalkers, I just think those are less efficient than relying on Villainy or the 3/3 spam you can do in the green black deck. But yeah, that was not a good showing for my deck, but I also was pretty convinced that I was going to lose this round hard. So
So you think? So I just wanted to clarify. So you think like next time you'd probably put some just businesses in the side over like, let's say, or like actually over like Chile, because I was actually interested in Chile because that was the one card in your sideboard which I was like, this seems like a little bit like out of place
I
for
would.
your deck composition.
So specifically, what Chile is doing is, if you look at my deck count, if you look at my main deck, how many win cons do you see in there?
I see 7 or
Um,
2.
you are technically missing 2 because I have Shadowed Slums, which has gotten there. But yeah, functionally, I'm on 7 win cons. And whenever I'm playing a control deck, I make sure to have a game plan against. But what if my opponent decides to register a Chrono Fracture?
Okay.
What if I'm doing a bunch of self-mill and a Villainy drops into my graveyard, and my opponent, for some ungodly reason, decides to board and seal the tombs and immediately takes out more than half my win conditions?
Which Cyber did board in 4 Chrono Fractures. That's how it ended up being like a smart thing.
Yeah. So there's a lot of decks this GP that just die to a single cast of Chrono Fracture, and I did not want to be one of them. The other advantage that Chi Li has is she makes me much better at racing some of the combo decks that we see. So less of for Grixis Twin, but shoot, what was the other deck that I was playing on against?
Landstorm?
To some extent, you and Landstorm, because having a turn 2 clock is really valuable. And versus Landstorm, I have so many dead cards in the main deck anyway that I have a bunch of room to board things in.
Gotcha.
The things that I think are most dubious in the sideboard are the Deathless Sieges. I just generically wanted 3 more cards to short my aggro matchup, because there's a lot of aggro. But I'm like pretty convinced that was just a mistake. But I also haven't drawn or played one yet, so maybe I'll feel differently by the end of the GP.
Yeah. Yeah, Deathless Siege feels kind of sus. Or at least specifically in this matchup, just because Cajun has Ozan and the Farmer's Repos, and he could, and like since it doesn't stop you from taking damage, it just means that you don't like. So you could just get you down to lethal and then like drop Ozin or
Yeah.
drop Guiding Light and then you're dead.
It's really to beat the Phoenix matchups
Okay.
and Dredge.
Yeah, Phoenix I think just kind of looks at this and shrugs and is just like, okay, I lose.
Yeah. Phoenix, this is like a gain 20 versus them, which I'm pretty interested in playing 3-mana gain 20 life in the aggro matchup. Especially because once I start gaining life, that means I can afford to pay life. But that's actually one thing that I think is notable is even if someone knocks me down to 10, negative 10, it is totally possible for this deck to stick a Villainy, stabilize, and gain life back up to like 6 or so.
Mm-hmm. But that's actually a line I hadn't considered where it's like, yeah, okay, I could go to the negatives and then just like recover to the point where you removing my Deathless Siege just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is like a final question.
I don't
say. Sorry.
Oh yeah, please hit me with the final question.
I just wanted to ask, like, so what matchups are you hoping to avoid, and what matchups are you hoping to hit going forward in the GP? Or yeah.
So from testing that I did, I'm pretty confident that Just Nobody's deck is a really difficult matchup for me. But I'm pretty sure he won his first round, so I don't need to worry about that anymore. Which is just the pro tips. If you lose your first round, you don't have to play against as many of the good players. Well, speaking as a bad player. I'm a little bit concerned about black-green tokens, but it really depends on the hands I draw. Historically speaking, ninjas and ninja-style decks, Suzume deck in general, are a terrible matchup for me. Okay. I'd really like to hit a bunch of the Arclight and Dredge decks, having main deck graveyard hate and a bunch of interaction. Not really afraid of those matchups in the slightest.
So right now, what that looks like is, so we know that Kevin is in your bracket as a Sushike, so that could come to pass.
And Kevin Norden, we're 2/3 of the graveyard aggro decks are in the lower bracket with me now. On the other hand, there's still time for 2 ninjas to drop into my bracket, and I really don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty sure Hersey is favored versus 5th, and I would kind of expect Monger to be favored versus CFT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Hersey's ability to just have a low enough curve that like they can ignore the counter spells, and then a fast enough clock that they aren't worried about 5th Sturdling is super important.
Yeah, I think one of the big weaknesses of the 3-color ninja decks is how much life they spend on their mana base, on recurring things with Suzume, and sometimes with like playing Aguris. Like they lose probably about 6 life to themselves, maybe as much as 7 life to themselves on a pretty regular basis. Which means that if you're a deck that decided to register 4 Rogars and a bunch of threats, you're usually in a good spot versus them.
Yeah. And like it also just makes it like if they're gonna use like a ninja's trigger, it makes it like so much easier for Hersey to like let's say threaten Sandscatter on Grandma herself, 5th bounces Grandma, and then you could play Lady Jen like later in the game. It's just like there's lots of like little lines like that.
And I think one of the big truths is one thing that's weird about Grixis, or Esper ninjas in general, or blue-black axe ninjas, is that despite being a tempo deck, unless you have a monument out, you go super tempo negative every time your opponent casts a 1-mana removal spell, and you have to bounce your guy. And you're technically card advantage positive, because they spent a card and they took 1 life off of you. But if your opponent's playing to the board, and you're not answering their creatures because you didn't draw your answers, or their creature snuck by some hand attack, you're just in such a terrible situation.
Yeah, if we had like
on the other hand, you pick up free wins versus combo and versus a lot of types of control, so it's fine.
I think actually that speaking to that, I think Demolitionist Divisor might be a tech for ninjas, just because since it deals damage equal to its power to any target, it can like you can like loop it with Grandma just to like kill smaller creatures. If they get bigger creatures, then obviously you need like hard removal. But you can use Demolitionist to like clean up smaller creatures and then eventually just go for face. So I wonder if that's something that will be tried by Fifth and other people who are playing the Grandma's deck in the future.
I hope so.
It feels like
definitely
you could
does
easily
seem
replace Steeple Deadeye just really quickly. I guess Steeple has
Steeple
to gain life.
Deadeye is important because it gains life.
Yeah. Okay, and then it's Monger versus CFT. And Monger's on Angel Touched. I think it.
Correct.
Yeah, I think CFT probably wins that, right? Is there anything that Monger has that's super good in that matchup?
Yeah, I think Monger is just a greedy enough mid-range deck that it should be totally possible to just go over the Ninja's deck. And there's just so many high-value cards to answer. I think the fact that CFT Sock is specifically on a combo version of that deck hugely helps that matchup because it vastly increases your ability to steal games, and I think you really have to. But main deck Singularity's Grasp out of Angel Touched is probably a beating.
Singularity's Grasp was just like brutal because in order to combo, they have to play Kinkan earlier, they have to play Suzume earlier, and then you can just Singularity's Grasp them for 2 on turn 4, and that's it. And they're just left with like Fire Shapers in hand, which like, ouch.
You usually get like 2 damage, you go mana neutral or positive, and you destroy the enchantment you care about. It's like, that's pretty good. Like, you are bleeding away card advantage at every possible turn, but like, if you have enough big wham cards that sneak by, you can just gain that all back. Alright, I'm gonna head out.
Yep.
It was very good doing this post-game interview, and yeah, I'm hoping to just 2-2 this GP, so I don't have high hopes. I just hope to win my next round, realistically the round after, and then lose my win in.
Okay. Well, I personally am hoping that you do that or better, so good luck, and I'll talk to you some other time.
Alright, talk to you then.